Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, another episode, and we're going to be talking about some marketing again because that's what I do, that's what I'm here to do, and we're going to talk about it. I'm loving the comments that I'm getting in the video, so make sure you like, subscribe and comment because this is about to be a good one. And you know what today's topic is? 5 things people didn't tell you that you need to know when you're working in creative marketing. Of course, I feel like this could be so useful for other people in other creative careers, but I'm speaking about it from a marketing point of view because there's going to be certain specific things that align with this job that I feel like y'all need to know. But then also it's lessons too. So let me get right into it. And I think it piggies back off really well on the last topic, which is all about where we are today in the industry, people changing, going to different jobs, pivoting because of how they feel. And we need to feel our feelings and make sure we action our feelings. But when you're doing that, especially again in a marketing role, there's something you need to know. So let's get right into it. So the first one, and I feel like they don't tell you in your interview. Well, I don't think it's for them to tell you. I think it's something that you need to know about yourself. And sometimes when we go for jobs, we need to be accountable for who we are and if who we are aligns with the role. I hope that makes sense. But I'll go into this topic and hopefully it will make sense. So it works in your favor if you are a people person. So when you think about marketing, you're all about storytelling, like the juice of it all, the love of it all is like, even let's say, you know, I'm using a Sony camera right now, like the person who marketed this camera is like, what is the story you're trying to tell? Like marketing is all about storytelling. And when you're in a business and you're sitting in a marketing team, that's your role. You have to build a story and a picture that aligns with the products, that connects with the consumers' needs and wants, right? So you have to work with finance to justify the budget that you'll need to create your creative campaign. You need to deal with the product team to make sure you get all the insights and innovations about the product, right? Then you need to deal with social to make sure it's marketed in the right places, so on and so forth, like procurement to even get the budget signed off. There's so many different like teams and people that you deal with, and I feel like no one really talks about this. Like marketing is a people facing role. Let me just repeat that. It's a people facing role. You spend most of your time emailing people, talking to people, being on the phone to people. Like talking, coming up with ideas, going back and forth, nailing it down, looking at strategies, looking at execution, activation. It goes on and on and on. It's such a people facing role and no one really like shouts out about this because obviously now with social media, we're behind our laptop, like behind our phone, and you can be as creative as you want. Candid content that you have the power and ownership to give out there. But when you are the marketer and the person doing the job, you have to be like so open and speak to so many people so you can, you know, execute the best piece of work, right? And I feel that yes, it comes with a lot of skills that you can learn, but I think a big part of, I feel like, key success stories that we see out there, a lot of marketers seem to be quite extroverts. Not that I'm saying you have to be an extrovert, because I don't think I am. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, right? But I do think you have to be open to know that this is such a people facing role. So you have to be aware that you have to put on your... No one really talks about it's the connector across all the businesses, you know. Comparing it to an IT role, you have to deal with the software. Of course you will like communicate to different people. I don't know about you know, like IT, so don't quote me. With roles where you have to do a job based on solving a problem like IT, for example, marketing is different because you are the hub within the business that comes up with the idea. And for example, the product team create the product, and of course your role is to market it, right? So you still need to know the product, so you need to speak to the product team. You need to know the finances, you need to speak to the finance team. You need to speak to the strategy team, the brand team, the comms team, legal team. Like you have to speak to everyone, and no one really talks about how much interaction you have to have with other people, and it takes a lot out of you. And I do think that you should be aware that when you entering new roles and in businesses, that should be a character that if that's one of your strengths, use it well. If it's not, it's definitely something that you should work on. Like, you know, and who are the right people in the businesses that you need to build relationships with so you can leverage it for the work that you need to do. And it's so important because I believe it's the make or break when you can basically be the person to make stuff happen or don't. And when it's to make stuff happen, it's not as if you need to come up with this like amazing idea. Sometimes it's speaking to the right people, getting the right heads together and making it work. And that is a key part of being a connector, being a people person, being open to speak to new people, cultivate relationships. I feel that as a marketer, you need to do a lot of internal PR in your job. Let me just say that, okay? So even when I started my new job, I had a lot of emails. Hey, how you doing? Like, you have to work with these people day in and day out, and they're not used to you. You have to actually be so personable, and it's a hidden gem that always works in your favor, especially when your boss might hit something on your desk and you have to turn it over in a couple of days. You're like, what? I don't have the capacity, time, brain space. Like, that's when you can call on those people that you've built relationships with, and I think it's so important and comes in handy, even especially when you want to navigate the business, move up. Those relationships help you because they're your internal ambassadors. So when you are trying to go for that promotion, you need those people to trust you, believe in you, to actually feel like basically you have a bit of a reputation that you are good. And that's important, and that's all I can hope for, you know? And it's so important that you kind of internal PR yourself, especially being a marketer, because like, for you to make sure you do your best job, you need to make sure you have the right relationships in the business to do the job. And I don't think it's something, it's like spoken about. Obviously, I come from an African background, so it was always ingrained in my head that, you know, you go into your job, put your head down and keep quiet. I did that in the first couple of years of getting into the creative marketing industry, working in fashion. That did not work in my favor. I was good, but like I wasn't noticed. And it doesn't help when you're trying to climb the ladder and you're passionate about what you want to do and you want to get to the next level. Like, you want to be an assistant, then you want to be an exec, a coordinator, whatever the names and titles are. And it's like, how can you when you're not putting yourself out there? And it sounds, I like saying it even sounds weird, but honestly it's the truth. And I feel like when it clicked for me, that's when I feel my career began to grow. Like, even when I even started life with a marketing girl, and the fact that I was posting my own content about marketing is when I felt more confident, so then I can go in the business that I was working in and be a bit more confident in what I know. Based on that, I was able to cultivate way more relationships and actually be valued for my knowledge. Not saying everyone needs to go start their own platform. That's not everyone's like calling. I get that. But what I'm saying is, like, cultivate those relationships, and doing that, you have to be super personable, confident. Don't be afraid to like speak up and build those relationships, because I'm telling you, it's gonna work in your favor. I think I rambled, but in there, I hope you get what I'm saying, right? So that's number one. Be aware that it's such a people-facing job. You have to network and you have to be personable, and make people aware of your value and that you're there. Point number two. Okay, it doesn't contradict, but it's like a FYI, right? In marketing, you're gonna deal with some difficult people. And when I say that, I mean, you have to think, like, the industry is all about innovation, like what's hot, what's next. For example, you know, when social came out, is like every company, every brand, every agency, are you on social media? Are you on Snapchat? Are you on Facebook? Are you on this? Now we're in the day with, are you on TikTok? Because if you're not on TikTok, then you're like behind, right? And even with TikTok, well, not even, the next big thing is live, you know, e-commerce, which is live shopping moving into. That's another video. We'll like talk about that. So use that as an example. This is 2022, and these are new ways of how marketing is being pushed to the forefront. You try and explain that to the CTO that's been in the business for 15 years. You try and explain that to finance when you're asking for £1 million in budget for a campaign. you try and explain that to who else in businesses that liaise with marketing but don't really know what marketing does. Just every procurement, logistics, like every other you know, vertical that is quite the opposite. And I'm only bringing those examples to say those businesses work on processes and processes that work for those businesses, right? So if you come to them and what you do aligns in the process, done, fine. You're giving them change. You're telling them we need to tap into live shopping because this is where we can tap a new audience, for example. You have to basically produce a business case, get those colleagues to understand it, believe in it, and then of course authorize. So just be prepared that sometimes you will get pushback. And it's not that they're difficult people personally, that's a whole nother video. But as marketers, we are the brand ambassadors for the brands and the companies that we work for. And our role is to take things to another level, innovate, which will in turn give us great return of investment. So our thinking and our creative idea is always on the next big thing. We are open to change because change drives our creativity. But that's not other people's strengths in businesses. They're done with processes. This means that, and that means that. 1 + 1 = 2. Which is true, but you know, 2 in 2022 is 4, for example. Such a silly example, but what I'm trying to say is you're going to deal with difficult people because they don't understand the value of the change that you're basically you know, offering, recommending. And obviously it depends on your senior level. If you're an assistant, you might share this with your manager, and of course they may agree because they get it, but then they get pushback, you know. And there's certain things that you have to understand because businesses deal with bottom lines. They have to make money, so things have to make sense. But I'm just from a professional perspective speaking to you guys out there who are, you know, pivoting into different marketing roles, graduating, going into the working industry. I do think these are knowledge that you must know, and I think help shapes your professionalism when you're in the business. And you can only learn when you're on the job, but it's so important to flag this because it's just like you have to think when you are dealt with anyone that's giving you pushback and are difficult. I would recommend, like, don't fight them. And when I mean by fight them, not physically, what I'm saying is just because they don't understand it doesn't mean you need to be like disregard them. There's a professional way to go about that, and the best way is to understand their perspective and make sure you understand, you know, their remits. And then from that, just present your idea and just let them know that this is added value, this is to support, this is to advance. You always have to come from a perspective of showing the benefits. And of course, with some benefits, there are risks. But if you position it with calculated, and what I mean by that, you always have to back it by facts and figures. And I think it's not just, oh, this is what I think is going to work because it's cool. You always need to back it up. So with things like this, when you're coming up with new ideas and you're trying to be innovative, you need to back it up. Because when you're asking finance for loads of money, then you'll be like, wait, what? Like, because of course, if it doesn't work out, it's back on you, which is again part of being accountable. So it's all about finding solutions around those, but I think it's important to even know sometimes you will face that because, yeah, people don't prepare you for that, and I think you guys need to know. So I've spoken about being a people person, being personable when you're in the business, when you're in jobs, when you work with people. Then I've covered about dealing with difficult people. As marketers, we're at the forefront of innovation. We're always powering change. And sometimes in businesses, like, they hate marketers because we're always trying to like change stuff. They're like, why are you changing it again? But that's our job, so, which is fun. But it's just making sure you're mentally prepared to deal with those sorts of situations when they do arise. And number 3, I've got a list because I don't want to miss anything, is, you know, I'm speaking personally here, so maybe you may or may not relate, but I love marketing because I get to be creative, right? I get to come up with good ideas, great campaign ideas, briefs, and share that with the team. What you do need to know is you can't run away from numbers. You're going to be dealing with budgets, okay? So you're going to need to get your calculator out and do the math. No, but seriously, what I'm saying is, but this is a business and it needs to run, it needs to be successful. I need to be paid, you need to be paid, and we need to have a job, right? To pay us. So to do that, we need to make sure that our ideas align with the bottom line. And I think it's a habit that it's really good to get in early on, if you have the access to, right? Or even if you don't have the access to, when those Monday emails come in and it's showing about what the sales are, don't just skip past it. Sometimes it's actually good to read and understand. Obviously you don't have to be in the detail, but it really does help you, because it even may help you come up with ideas in terms of where the business has fallen short and where you could obviously give a solution. And I feel like sometimes when you get into marketing, we think, oh my God, it's just social, da, 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 da. But even when it is social, you still have to look at the data. You still have to look at the trends and see what's performing well and what's not. That's like numbers. When you have the autonomy to come up with campaigns, you also need to make sure it's backed by finances. Break down the budget work stream by work stream. How much is going to be for concept creation? How much is going to be for production, influencers, execution, staff, like all of that stuff. So budgets are a big part of, you know, working in marketing, because you're always rolling out something new. Of course, as provide a business case to request a certain amount, but even if you are an assistant coordinator level, you will see like the weekly trade emails that come in, I assume, and it's important that you guys are aware of what the numbers mean, even just from a top level. You don't need to know every single thing, but it helps you be in the know of how the business is performing. And I feel like to be a great marketer is to understand how your storytelling and your narrative and your creative concept turns into sales and converts your customers to actual customers that make a purchase. And I feel like that gets lost in the fun of it all, which of course I love the fun of it. But as you get more senior, obviously you have to face more people, you have to show your results, deliver your results. So when you start to understand the numbers early, you can be a bit more strategic with your execution and making sure, you know, budgets is something that you need to know. This kind of ladders onto what I've been saying. And as I said, marketing, you're going to deal with all these different people. I've spoke about finance, procurement, legal, PR, comms, all these different vertical teams that we work so closely with. So if you're working closely with them, you can't run away from this. You need to understand the full process, the full funnel of your job. Like, I feel like IT can just know about IT and that's fine. You don't need to know about marketing, right? But we do. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you've got production coming in, you need to know like what we have access to and things like that. Legal might not need to know about the full concept, but we need to know about legal. And when I say that, I mean, if we come up with a name, we need to make sure it's legally available to use externally to go out in the market. So you really need to understand the full funnel, because it's not just about the idea, it's making sure the idea works in the business ecosystem. And the business ecosystem is obviously made up of all these different teams, even so many that I haven't even named, depending on the business that you work in. I'll give a fashion one and a social one, because now I work in social. So when I worked in fashion, I have to come up with a campaign. Of course, they release new collections, so I worked with the visual merchandise team and the buying team to understanding their buys, which means the cost as well of things and the retail price, which actually from a concept point of view helps me position the narrative, because obviously if it's mass market, if the price is quite low, the message is different to if it's premium, the message needs to be more tailored. So I still need to understand the buying and what the retail price is, right? And speaking to visual merchandising as well, I still need to understand the quality. Like, does a product have silk in it? Because that could be part of the narrative depending on what the range is. Or is it wool specifically? Is there specific product innovations? Like, I need to know all this stuff, because what I'm going to say is just a red dress, but why is that red dress special? Because there's 20,000 other red dresses in the world. So you even need to know that level of detail before you even thought about what the concept is. So you get that information from buying, merchandising, and all those teams prior that deal with the product development, and then you go into concept. But then when you go into concept, you need to understand where you are in the market, the season that the product is gonna go live in. So that means you have to speak to the brand team and insight team, who does the generic research and strategy behind a summer collection. Where are customers in the summer? Where are they shopping? What is their lifestyle? Where is their spending power? So I need to know all of that, because I'm not gonna speak to a 15-year-old about a red lacy dress in like August, but I would speak to maybe a 30-year-old woman in February because it aligns like Valentine's Day. So it's like you need to understand where your customers are and what are they thinking, what are they doing, what are their needs, what they want. So that's insights. Then you gather all that information and come up with a concept. But then with a concept, it's just not you. You need design, you need creative, you need color schemes, you need a theme. So then you need to work with design and photography to come with that together. And then when that comes to life, you need to be like, once it's created, where's it gonna sit? You need to speak to the email team, which is CRM. You need to speak to social team. You need to speak to the website team, online team. So there's so many different teams you have to speak with. So as a marketer, you end up knowing the full funnel. You end up knowing the full funnel. And to be a great marketer, it's very imperative that you do. And that's why those relationships are so important. Can you see how they interlink? So you have to know all of that. It's a lot. But then when you do, and they trust you, it's a really exciting and fun process, because what's so fun is you are starting something from nothing and you end up producing something amazing that thousands of people will see. Which is so rewarding. And then of course, when it does do well, what happens? You get conversion, which is sales, which is the numbers. So you need to report those numbers. This campaign did really well because this and this and this, and report it, because you're delivering your value back to the business. See, it's such a 360 role, working as a marketer. Obviously there's different teams, and I've mentioned a few of them, like email, social, and certain roles would be segmented into that, but they also need to know all the full funnel information so they can communicate it in the right way within their different teams. So you can't really get away from it, right? So it's just so important that, you know, you really understand the full funnel to do your job really, really, really well. So yeah. Moving on to the fifth and last topic that I'm going to be talking about today. I really want to speak to young people getting into marketing, especially if you're graduating and you are stepping into your first role, or you have a couple of years under your belt and you really want to take it up a notch, right? I feel like the best way to do that is to, and help you do that, is upward managing your boss. And when I heard that, I was like, what does that mean? Like, my boss is my boss, they're supposed to support me. But what I've realized over the years, that it's a relationship. So it's just not a one-way system where they just have to support you. You also have to set your expectations and manage them as well. And when I mean upward manage your boss, I'm not telling y'all to tell them what to do now, because I'm not trying to get you guys in trouble. No, that's not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say is to make your life easier, and to making sure you have a sufficient working environment for you. The best thing you can do is upward manage your boss. What I mean by that is they may have clear expectations of you, and make sure that you ask and get clarity on what those are, so you're aware. And within those expectations, what can you manage yourself without them managing you to do it? So for example, it's just a few things. Your agenda for the week, you send that to them before they send it to you, because then they're aware of what you're working on. So there is no chasing you for anything or calling you to do, saying that you haven't done something, when you've kind of give them full transparency on what your workload capacity looks like. So then, for example, if you don't say anything, they're only going to keep giving you work, you know? But then if you communicate, this is your workload for the week, this is what I'm working on. Of course, I'm assuming you may have check-ins, things like that. It will really help you to have balance and for them to have full visibility of your workload without micromanaging you. And this is why I'm saying it, because I think what happens when people become managers, I've been a manager myself, they think being a manager is just being on top of your team, like literally, and it doesn't help them grow, and it doesn't help you, give you space to do the things you're supposed to do. So I feel like what would help them, but in turn will help you, is give you space to do the job that you want to do, but also you're giving them full visibility. And it's just doing things without them even asking you. Like obviously your agenda for the week, what you're working on, if there's any like pushback on certain things that you're receiving from other teams, communicating it back to them and requesting the support that you need, instead of like waiting for them to be like, so what's going on with that? Then you give them an update, then you tell them this didn't work, and then they're like, oh. Of course sometimes that happens because like sometimes working weeks can be crazy, so I know it's not going to be like regimented, but what I'm saying, if you can instill certain practices to help you upward manage your boss, it would actually help you so you can have space to do the work that you're supposed to do in the 9 to 5 hours that you are contracted to, but then also gives you the space to learn, be equipped, feel confident to do it, and then your manager will trust you because they can see the initiative that you're taking, which will help them back off, especially if you deal with micromanagement, which is a big issue, which probably calls for a video. New ideas are coming up as I talk about this. But I think it's so important, especially when you're an assistant or you're a coordinator and you report into a manager. What does it look like? Because of course you don't want to come off like rude or anything like that, but it's really not. It's showing such professionalism, efficiency, confidence, and value in your job, and autonomy to do your job. And I think that's what everyone wants, and I think it would really help. I really wanted to talk about this because I feel like sometimes we can do videos about strategies, which I will do, but there's so many other little things that really help you like solidify yourself, feel comfortable, and making sure it's a conducive work environment so you can be the best marketer that you can be. And the reason I do this is because I think marketing is such a exciting creative industry, but it's so layered, especially because the industry is changing, which makes our job, it's ever changing. So it's just like, what can you keep? What can you make sure the standards and professionalism that you keep so you can be the best? And I feel like these points really do help, because you'll look at CVs or look at job descriptions, and you'll see you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. But then another question that should also come to mind, what skills should I have to be able to do this? Not just the professional actual skills, but the character skills, the people skills, interpersonal skills, all of this comes into play. And that's why sometimes you do go to jobs and you feel like this isn't like the right fit. This isn't the right fit, because some of these things hasn't been established between you and also the business as well. So I think it's important, we're not going to wait for the business to tell us that, we're going to assert that ourselves, because as I always say, and it's a consistent punchline and reminder for me, when we go to work, it's a partnership. Of course you are paid a salary, and in return, what do you give them? Your value, your skill set, your knowledge. So it goes hand in hand. And I think we should take more authority in that. Not saying we're going around calling each other the boss. No. I'm saying is have pride in your work, have pride in your level, have pride in the level of experience you have. Whether you're new and don't know and super eager to learn, or you are well seasoned and you know your stuff and you really want to make an impact. I feel like both of these sides in terms of where you are in your career journey is so important, because these 5 steps will really help you solidify yourself as a marketer, especially one well known in the business that can deliver amazing campaigns, marketing strategies, whatever area of marketing you are. I hope this one helps you. I really wanted to give things that help you long term, regardless if you work in social media one day and you change into digital marketing or work in e-commerce. These are tips and tricks that will always stick with you, and I think that's what's important, because we're all about the long game, longevity, and making it to the top. But thank you guys. Thank you for listening. I feel like it's a bit of a dear diary, a bit of a rant, a bit of insight, but I hope it's been informative. Please do comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're doing. I've been getting some great messages from young girls who are stepping into the industry, who have finished graduating and thinking about what you want to do, and I would love to hear more. So make sure you guys reach out to me on my Instagram, on YouTube, comment. I always check DMs. I'm always replying. Bear with me if I take a bit of a minute. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll be back with some fashion, because what do you think this is? I'm a life of a marketing girl, and I'm going to give you career, fashion, lifestyle, and marketing tips. So bye guys.